Welcome to the Aprés Business Podcast, the show that celebrates the grit, grind, and passion it takes to build extraordinary outdoor brands. Your host, Babicz, founder of Fall Line Digital, brings you straight into the stories of marketers and industry insiders who are shaping the outdoor world. Each episode is packed with insights, hard-earned lessons, and the kind of real talk that comes from being in the trenches. Because at the end of the day, business, like skiing, climbing, or any big challenge, is about pushing yourself, learning from the experience, and celebrating the journey. Let's jump into today's episode.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Aprés Business Podcast. My name is Babicz. I am the host, and I'm so excited for today's guest, Kelly Mazanti from Buttnski. Kelly, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm so excited. So tell me who you are and what you do.
Well, my name's Kelly. I live in Summit County, Colorado, which is near Breckenridge. Well, Breckenridge is part of it. I live in Frisco, in a cabin in the woods, and and I have a clothing brand for women to help people have more fun doing what they love outside without sacrificing style for performance.
I love it. So Buttnski actually has an amazing story behind how you came up with the idea for this product. Tell me about that.
Well, I got it from my mama, just like any good thing. And she has a pair of fleece shorts from the 80s that have kept her butt warm on cold chairlifts for 30 years while she's been skiing between Washington and Colorado and all around the country. And so in 2020, when we were all cooped up, I was seeing her wear her fleece shorts and I couldn't believe that she still had them. And so I thought, how hard would it be to make these better because they're a little outdated? And so I was joking around and said, if I made some shorts and it was a company, what would we call it? And she said, well, Buttnski. They keep your butt warm while you ski. And I used to call you and your brother Buttnskis growing up and tell you to just stop complaining, stop being a butthead, get off your butt and go ski, get out there, get your butt out there and go do something. Living in Washington, growing up with the rain, you had to just go out regardless of the weather. So a lot of times we were wearing garbage bags skiing and having itchy buns and going into the lodge for our packed lunches, and all the just steam rising off of us was just gross. I could still remember it. So anyway, that is how it was inspired. And here we are, I don't know, almost 5 years later, and I guess it's become a business.
I guess. Yeah, you're here, you're doing it. I love it. So you grew up skiing in Washington, and tell me about that upbringing. Like you said, you skied in garbage bags, and sounds like it was a little different than Colorado, but follows your passion out to the mountains. How important was it for you to kind of meld both of your worlds of business and love for the mountains and love for skiing?
Okay, that's kind of it's going to be a long-winded answer. It's a great question. And I remember my first favorite ski outfit because it was around the time, I'm 35. So I was 1989 when I was born. So tail end of the 80s. So going into the 90s, onesies were still I think they were either having a resurgence or they were cool still or something. But I remember one year
it was a hand-me-down. It was a hand-me-down.
Well, I think I got a new one at REI, and it was this royal blue, almost purple, one piece with a belt. And I just remember thinking that was so cool. And it was my favorite ski outfit, but I still had to put a garbage bag over it because nothing was really waterproof back then, it seems like I don't remember ever feeling dry. But at the same time, growing up in Washington, I would twice a year, my mom and I would go into the city and go shopping, and we would shop at Nordstrom's. So I grew up having that experience when it was really cool and it wasn't diluted by kind of what that experience has become today at a retail environment. And so I always grew up doing outdoorsy stuff, but also really loving going shopping and getting new clothes and getting to express myself that way. And I was also a dancer. So I was a classically trained ballerina and got to wear costumes and, become something by putting makeup and a costume on. So I've always had this love and appreciation for both things, like the outdoors and the more fashion girly side of things. So I guess fast forward, I went to school at CU Boulder, studied marketing and management, ended up in a corporate job, left back to Washington to take a promotion down to Los Angeles, where I tried to join a startup and no one wanted somebody with corporate experience. So it was really hard to change industries. So I started my own thing, got into brand design and strategy, and then eventually ended up back in Colorado in 2019. And then when I was living full time, all of a sudden in the mountains, I was realizing, like, looking around me, like, I don't want to look like that. I don't want to look like that. They're wearing the weirdest outfits. Like, everyone just looks like they're going to go on a hike or like a bike ride at any moment. And I just thought that was so silly, and like coming from growing up in the outdoor environment and then living in like Denver, Seattle, Los Angeles, I was finding myself back in a rural place, and I had grown up in a rural place, but on the beach. So it's totally different. And I just looked around and thought, I'm not subscribing to this. But then within a few months I was, because it was the only option. It was like, Wild Rye and cool women-owned brands didn't really have their surge yet. So like in 2019, I really didn't even know that there were options that were cool besides what you could find at REI. And so I just was like, oh, I guess I'm going to look like that too. And I hated it. I just was like, this is not me. But what I've realized is when you're living in this environment full time, your wardrobe totally changes. And it's about, it's less about style. It's more about like comfort from the elements. But oftentimes the things that are going to provide that aren't actually comfortable and don't actually fit you very well. So I was like pretty quickly frustrated with that. And ultimately, when I decided I would remake these fleece shorts into something more modern and technical, I realized I would also build a brand that would allow me to expand a product line to encompass the things that I love to do outdoors, so that you can go from trail to, street and après and be on the hill and kind of just transition throughout your life and feel more like yourself, the way you want to express yourself.
I love it. I love it. And so you mentioned this a little bit, but before going all in on Buttnski, you had your own branding and marketing agency or consulting company.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about how when you went to go to market to launch Buttnski, how you leveraged that amazing background that you had.
Well, it's no secret that I'm not a social media whiz, if anyone has followed me or the business. So the challenge is, like, I had a brand design and strategy business, and I built it because I found designers to work with, graphic designers, and I was really always good at strategy and kind of putting the bigger picture together. So when I had my brand design and strategy business called Peer Collective, I was able to go get clients, build a team, get the budget, and then execute the project. And I wasn't the one doing the detail work. I wasn't the one doing the graphic design. So I had a team always, and I would have a budget to have a team. And then when I was like, oh, I'll build Buttnski, I had a vision in mind for what I wanted the logo to be. It's like a retro inspired, I have my shirt on now. I don't know if we can see it, but
Yep.
it's this retro inspired logo. And I had my graphic designer at the time design it for me. So then fast forward to now, and as many of you can relate, bootstrapping a company, it costs a lot of money, and especially a product company. And so unless I'm paying someone to do things, I've found it really challenging to become an expert in all these areas. And so I've done my best. I've hired contractors here and there. I have a great team around me when I am able to pay them. And I feel really fortunate because I've met the people who are like top in the industry in each area that I need them to be in order to start this business. But I'm at this place right now where, in order to scale and relaunch in 2026, I have this pretty much kick-ass team of, can I say that? out here.
100%.
Kick butt because Buttnski, they're an amazing team and I'm ready to hire them. I just am, trying to put the budgets together. And so it's a little different than if I were a trained graphic designer who could do all this myself, or a social media expert who, was building a brand around me being at the helm and doing all the client work myself, which is a chicken and the egg, right? Because you can't own and operate your business. You have to decide one or the other. You work on it or you work in it. And I've done both out of necessity, but ultimately I'm trying to build a brand that I'm working on and hiring people who are way more talented than me to work in it so that we can bring a bigger vision to life.
So you had a bit of an entrepreneurial background. I would say that like starting your own design agency, like you started something from nothing. So you had that to like build some momentum of like I can do this moment. Um, but you didn't have a manufacturing and apparel background. And I loved when we were talking earlier this week about how uh, maybe you didn't realize you didn't have to go to the sheep farms to get the fabric.
To get
And
wool. Yeah.
the wool. Yeah, to get the wool to make the fabric. I'd love for you to tell us more about that learning curve of really not having a apparel manufacturing background at all. And
Mhm.
then like we talked about, you mentioned that you hired somebody super talented who could kind of bring this vision to life.
Oh yeah. So I think a lot of times our human default is to make stuff way harder than it needs to be. And so that's what I did. And as a result, it made this company kind of be delayed by a couple of years of actually starting. So I got the, corporation in 2020, made the logo, had a vision. And then I asked my brother, who's been in the outdoor industry for his whole career, hey, can you introduce me to like a pattern maker or someone who would get me started? And sure enough, he had someone in Boulder, and she was nice enough to meet with me, which, by the way, that's the hard part, is getting these people to take you seriously. Like, do you know what you're getting yourself into? Because it's going to be really expensive and you probably can't do it. But she was so sweet, and she met with us and was like, here's what, yeah, I can make you a pattern, but you just bring me the material you want. She probably didn't even realize I didn't even know how to get started with that. She kind of gave me more credit than I was probably worth at that time. Because most people
She's
like
like, just go down to Joanne's Fabric and get me some fabric. And you're like, no, I gotta go to the sheep
the sheep
farm.
farm in Colorado. I want to use Colorado wool. But I think people like that are used to someone like me coming to them who has experience working for a brand, probably, who's like, hey, I've worked for these brands. I want to now do my own thing. So they have a little bit more of a leg up, I would say, or an understanding of what it involves. And I had no idea. But I said, okay, I'll come back to you with fabric. I was calling sheep farms in Colorado thinking that seems like a good idea. Bad idea. They don't actually have a finished product. They just have these, and now I'm going to forget the name. It's like bullets or whatever, like the big raw wool bags that they export mostly to China, where it gets washed and clean and spun and woven, like all the things that happens, and then it gets made into stuff. And then it gets shipped to like the factory where it actually gets made into something. So I didn't understand that process. And then I gave up for a while, probably like a year and a half, until I picked the idea back up and realized there's probably material that exists. So I called her up and I said, do you know someone who could help us source material? Or I didn't even know that word, find material. And she said, yeah, I have a product developer friend. She could probably help you figure out the material that would be best based on what you want to create. And I'm thinking, why didn't I ask her this sooner? It was so simple. That was just like one question. So that where we had an advantage early on is that it was post COVID by that time. So it was, I think, January of 2022. This product developer in Boulder, Patty Nielsen, who's amazing, who was also very skeptical. She's like, do you know how much this is going to cost? And are you going to stick with it? Because I don't have bandwidth to like work with someone who isn't going to follow through. And I love her. We're great friends. And I, since then, feel like I really snuck in because here we are when we followed through and gotten to this point. But anyway, she said, I'm going to Outdoor Retailer in a couple weeks. It's in Denver. Do you want to meet me there? I'll set up some appointments. We can go walk around and look at stuff. So that's what I did. And that's how we started developing two products, which are our fleece OG shorts and our Blue River down joggers. The advantage was because it was, I think, the first outdoor retailer post-COVID, everyone was back. It was shrunken down to one floor of the convention center, and not a lot of international suppliers were there. So the people who were there just wanted to get restarted with their business. So they were like, no minimums for you. You can piggyback off other brands. We'd love to work with you. We have a US supply chain. So there was a lot of that. And I was able to get introductions that I probably wouldn't have been able to access had I been there in like a big time year. So then we were off and we spent a year developing product and then did like a friends and family pre-order soft launch. And then a whole bunch of other things happened after that.
I love it. So, in my business, so in the Facebook ads world, whenever I work with a new brand who has not advertised before or needs a little bit of strategy, I help them by reining them back into what I call a hero product, right? So we take the hero product, and that's the product that's going to have the best product market fit that we're going to launch ads with, and then people are going to go back and they might buy something else in their second purchase, but at least we got them into the brand. So it sounds like you have hero products. You basically have like your two hero products, the fleece short and um, the puffy,
The down joggers.
the puffy down joggers.
Yeah.
Thank you. Why'd you start with those? I know why you started with this. Why you started with the short is the whole brand story behind the Buttnski, but why did you add in that puffy pant?
I actually have one of the first protos next to me right here. And the puffy pant was because we wanted to do, okay, well, I have a pair of knickers that are puffy that I love, but they look like a paper sack. Like they are so ugly on. So I thought, oh, I'll wear the fleece shorts over my long underwear on moderately cold days just for that extra insulation on my butt, which is how my mom wore hers for the whole time. She would put them over her long underwear. And then on really cold days, when I really need another layer, I need a puffy knicker. So I want to make a better one. So this is our first proto. It is so bad. And it's so thick. And they do random colors, like whatever they had, but it has a full side zip. It's a knicker. It's bulky. It's fleece. It's Polartec on the back. And you can zip it all the way on and off. And actually, I should probably just wear this on random days just to like see how it feels.
Is the puff on the back or the front?
No, it's Polartec. It's a wool blend fleece on the back, which unfortunately kind of bags out and doesn't have good recovery. So it's not very becoming, but it's very warm. And then this is the down quilting on the front.
Okay, got it.
So this, I was like, oh yeah, this is so ugly, but it's a good concept. And then had my friends try it on under their ski pants, and it wouldn't fit under any woman's ski pant because unlike me, nobody else wears their stuff baggy. I wear like the baggiest possible. So that didn't work. And then instead of just like, we were kind of running out of time because it was getting into time when we needed to make some decisions for fall. So I said, I like the quilting. Like the quilting looks, the way it laid on the body was really nice looking when you're looking at it on someone. So I said, what if we just extend this into a full length jogger and make a down pant that's like a jogger? Because everyone wears joggers and these would just be warm after skiing. You could wear these every day. So that's what we did. And that's how we came up with, they were an accident, happy accident. A glorified dog walking pant when you live in the mountains. But what I found is I actually keep mine out year round because I wear them camping and backpacking and cold nights on the porch. So they're really versatile.
Yeah, I love those. Those are super cute. So you just shared the prototype of the pants. And last time we talked, you told me that the shorts, when you first got those back, were like nothing like you had imagined. Oh, yes.
These are, I think, one of the first. They're just like terribly weird and ugly. I don't even think these were the first. This might have been a second or third. But basically, when you have an idea and somebody draws it out for you, you get these samples once you're ready to kind of start sewing it. And they look nothing like what you envision. And it's shocking. You're like, oh my God. We should just give up now. This is never going to work. But eventually you get closer. And then what I learned is how to get more clear early on in the process of what it is and what the specs should be so that you're closer faster. And then you shorten up the time for development.
So how many times did it take you before you got that short?
Not quite 10, but maybe 6 to 8. Yeah. And then there were still problems after we perfected it. So you're just never done.
Yeah. And it's like a short. It's not like like something so technical and crazy. I could see with the puffy pants because it's different material, but yeah.
Oh, and then when we went to order our shorts after we were like, okay, this is the fit, they were out of the black fleece that we needed, and it was like a possible 6 to 9 month back order.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I'm like, okay, well, I need to sell something. So do you have like the white fleece that we can print on? And they're like, oh yeah. So I said, oh, why don't we just do like a pattern? Let's do a cheetah print. So I used the same pattern we had approved, did the white fleece, ordered like 50 of them, and then the fit was wrong because the white fleece, even though it was the same fleece as the black, it's prepared for print. It's PFP is what they call it. So it gets squished down, so the composition of it changes a little bit, has different stretch, and it was bagging in the crotch. And I'm like, oh no, this fits
Oh.
different because it's doing something different than what the black fleece did. So you learn all sorts of wacky things like that you would never think to. I mean, other people listening who might have started a product company who have experience are probably like, yeah, you would know that, duh. But I didn't. Nobody thought to tell me because they just thought I knew. So
Yeah.
funny.
What do you call it? Like the learning tax. You had to pay to learn, right?
It's basically I did a couple masters. Yeah.
Yeah.
Expensive, as expensive or more. Much yeah.
Um, so now you manufacture in LA and Canada for your two different products, and I'm curious to learn more about what it's been like to manufacture those places compared to how important that was for you to keep things close to home, versus, all the other options that you had.
So early on, and it's gone through so many different iterations. Early on, I wanted to keep it onshore if possible. I thought, how cool would it be to localize our supply chain? Turns out you just can't really do that very easily. If it was all cotton that we were working with, totally. I would get cotton from this cool place in California that does regenerative, and they have this whole coalition. And then I would use these cool manufacturers in LA that specialize in cotton t-shirts, like no brainer. I could totally make it all happen here. But with outdoor and technical material, it's just not entirely, I don't want to say impossible. It will be at some point, maybe, but you're kind of reinventing the wheel when other places do it best. Like the mills that exist overseas are the best at what they do and they're
Mhm.
experts. So even if you want to manufacture here, you're not necessarily going to get all the material you want created here. And if you do, there might be some quality differences. So it gets really complicated really fast. And one gal who has a really successful outdoor brand said to me as a mentor at one point, are you building a brand or are you building a manufacturing company? Because I thought, how cool would it be to manufacture everything here and do it all ourselves? What a great story. And it didn't occur to me until later on. Now it's totally clicked. I'm like, I want to focus on building a brand because those are two separate businesses. And both of them I'm not really that great at, but I want to be great at one of them, and it's not manufacturing. That's a business I'm really not interested in getting into right now, but I was hell bent on it for a while. And I still want to be able to like drive economic development in rural mountain communities like mine and create industry and opportunities for jobs, but maybe not in that way. So I do try to hire locally when I can. But back to LA and Canada, the Canada thing was necessity because I started out in the US with the one person who blows down, who I was introduced to through my down supplier. Then after we developed the product with them and did all our samples, they sort of became a little too big to work with, even though we were going down that path and they were going to scale with us. So it didn't ultimately work out, and we had to pivot really quick and find someone new who would work with us. And then we had some pattern issues because every time you go to a new manufacturer, you sort of have to go back to the drawing board because they have a whole different process and the fit can change and they interpret the pattern differently. And it's just like, oh my God. So that was scary and hard, but they've been a great partner, easy to communicate with. I haven't visited them yet. And then our LA manufacturer, we found through introductions because they didn't have a minimum quantity requirement. So we were able to start small, even though it was more expensive per garment, and then build. And they're great. I've visited them. They're really ethical. The quality does vary a little bit, and that's just the nature of not having an all-inclusive factory. You just have to really pay attention to the details. And, we're right now possibly looking at some different alternatives to go forward. So we'll see how that unfolds.